The Artemis 1 mission, the capsule just splashed down in the Pacific. Recording. Yeah. So Alexandra, I was just commenting to the initial guests how amazing it was to watch the splashdown, because the Navy ship had the camera aimed at an empty part of the ocean and didn't even have to move the camera left or right to catch the splashdown. It landed in center frame of the camera, which I was going, yes, mathematics, yay, math. And it was a perfect textbook landing right in the middle of the frame. It was very exciting.
It was pretty fantastic.
It was. Not a single flaw in anything. It was awesome.
No, it was great. And it was wonderful watching the parachutes opening and everything.
Yeah. Great. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit and make you the co-host, Alexandra. And since you're better at this than I am, and you're more famous, so
not really.
He just won't let it go, Alexandra. He just won't
I know.
let it go.
It's a broken record.
You're more famous than me. So there you go. Lead away.
So has anybody got any questions that they want to chat about? Or are we just going to chat about how miserable the weather is in the northern and how wonderful it is in the southern hemisphere?
It's pouring rain here this morning. It's been raining all night, so no, it's not that great in down under at the moment.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I jinxed it then, because you've been getting some absolutely fantastic solar images all week. So it sounds like Australia is just sun all week.
If only. Last week was actually not too bad a week, but this week is shaping up to be pretty ordinary, which is a bit of a pity. But anyway, you take what you can when you can.
Australia's been experiencing a weather phenomenon called La Nina, which is doing with the heating of the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean, and we've basically had the wettest whole year really ever on record. So Sydney broke the rainfall records in September, so it still had 3 months to run for the most rain that's ever fallen. So don't come to Australia at the moment.
No.
It's midsummer.
Finally.
Not yet.
I guess it's better than fires. Oh, well,
I was just going to give a shout out, if I may, to Stephen, if you wouldn't mind saying hello to Pranvera for me when you see her again. Thank you.
Is Stephen there? Or is he gone?
Is he? It sounds like he might have gone. Has he gone?
I don't know.
Nah.
He's hidden away.
He's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not looking too good for weather today and tomorrow. We've got storms today and tomorrow, so I won't be doing any imaging or animations myself, so hopefully towards the end of the week. Nice to see you guys, by the way. Well, you all look great. Peter and Claire, nice to see you after talking so many times.
Yeah, cool. Same.
Good to see some new faces. Welcome.
Thank you.
I know, especially when they've got up at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning to actually That's pretty good.
We fall asleep, it'll be
Brian.
okay.
We might get a break again on Wednesday. If I can swiftly run out there before it sets into the garage again. About 40-minute window from home. So it is a bit of a
like
dash.
a Yorkshire accent.
Very much, yes.
I was
Is that a snow shovel?
Sorry?
Have you got a snow shovel in the back?
Because
it looks like you've got a snow shovel.
We're another household having changes done. That is to remove the foam backing off this tatty carpet that's under me.
No.
I'm in my what is now is called my cubby hole, or the control room for the Astro kit, and me getting out of the missus's way. She's in the other room doing Christmas card production. She does a lot of
Oh.
crafting. I'm better off in here, out of the way. I know my place.
So do you do all of your astronomy then remotely in the warm?
More or less, yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I did some visual on what day was it? Thursday morning,
Mhm.
about 4 a.m. Mars.
For that Mars.
Yeah, occultation.
All right.
I didn't, but I was doing some deep sky, and I didn't bother swapping the cameras over. I'm still getting over the flu, so the C11 is a bit of a lift onto the mount still for me. So take it easy.
Oh yeah.
I'm getting old,
Aren't we all?
old and fat.
I was going to comment, it can't be a snow shovel because it's far too small.
It is. It is. Yeah. It's a scraper we got off one of the my wife's business, well, part of it now, sells scissors, knives, and stuff to various places. One of our suppliers do that's in the background for scraping. I think it's used in restaurants mainly, scraping the floors from fat and stuff, and it's ideal for getting the foam. So it's sort of welded itself to the floorboards. Evil stuff, and it's just the job.
Okay, so we had some good news from our some of our sponsors, the British Astronomical Association, who Alexandra talked them into sponsoring us last year, and they contributed $1,000 or $1,500 towards running the forum last year, which was great. And we had 3 sponsors total, and this is the first time we've ever had any sponsored logos on here, except the 2 that sponsor Charlie Bates Solar Astronomy Project. And 2 of those people have signed up again for another year, so that's great. And in fact, the British Astronomical Association committed to 2 years through their president, David Arditi. Is that right?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, they did.
News.
And I had to look at several pictures of him working out in the gym in order to get the sponsorship, but he did. And then Woodland Hills Camera and Telescope in California, who is owned by Farah Payan. And a lot of us that have been to these astronomy shows in the US know Farah. She's really, really scatterbrained. And I think Pedro and Farah had a little something going on at the last time Pedro was at NEAF. I'm not sure of that. But
I was never at NEAF.
okay.
Never invited me. So
You're ruining my joke, Pedro. But
Yeah.
she agreed for another year. So it's all looking good. And I increased the size because of those sponsorships. I increased the size of our site to 250 gigabytes, which is a quarter terabyte, which makes it by far the largest astronomy forum ever produced on the internet. So we have and we're already using about a third of that space. So in order to retain high resolution photography and videos and whatever you want to post, we have plenty of room now for the rest of my life. But it is very expensive. But we'll keep it going as long as we can. And the forum is running super fast for everybody. For those that don't know, we got away from Network Solutions, which in the United States, Network Solutions was the original web host, and they were sanctioned by the government to sell domain names early on in the 90s. And that's where you had to go. And I've had domain names since the early 90s, since it first started, since what's his name, Al Gore invented the internet. I've had some domain names, but I've stuck with Network Solutions for almost 30 years, but they've been resold a couple times in the last 10 years. And now they went through GoDaddy.com, and then they're currently owned by web.com. And the support is horrible now. And it's all, some foreign country somewhere where someone answers and just reads the script to you and no one actually fixes anything. So when things would go down, it would be down for hours and hours and hours while you're trying to get somebody to do something. And we got tired of all that and went with DreamHost, which is in California. And DreamHost is very, very small, and they're recommended by the guys that write PHP BBS, which is what we use. So anyway, hopefully they'll stay small and responsive. But the only difference is that they don't have any voice support for anything. It's all email. So when something goes wrong, you got to email them the problem. And I was real skeptical of that, but I did a couple of things already, and they emailed back within 5 minutes, even after hours. So I was real happy with that. So I know some people still have problems now and then with the forum, but if anyone does, just put them in the forum support issues, or email me or call me or whatever, and we'll get it going. So we have the largest astronomy forum in the world at 240 gigabytes of data. With all my other websites, with Sunlit Earth and Charlie Bates Solar and my personal sites, we're using about 110 gigabytes of that space right now. So the Solarchat forum constitutes about 50 of that. So we can go 3 more times the size of the current forum without any problems. And that's about it. And Ontario Telescopes, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. It's owned by a guy named Steve Malia. He's interested in coming on and doing some things with us. And I was trying to pull up the picture of the solar wedge he just sent me. He's been a good friend of mine from all the telescope shows. And let's see if I can find it. There it is. I'll screen share this. It's a little pricey. This is in Canadian dollars though. Hold on. You can see
That's the scary part.
Yeah, Canadian dollars. So this is a wedge he just sent me, the Antlia Herschel wedge. And I've got it at home. And I don't know how many of you have wedges, but this is most everybody here is already using a solar wedge. I particularly like my Bader, and I stick with it even through all the other wedges. But this one's got some pretty good features. It's got it's got a twist lock that mine came with a twist lock, so I'm not sure what this is, but even this one has the little brass ring to hold things steady. It's got a built-in polarizer. This isn't the one he sent me, to be honest with you, but the one he sent me has a built-in polarizer in the eyepiece tunnel that you can adjust, which is another, at least 100, 120 US dollars that you'd have to spend after you get a wedge.
Excuse me, Stephen. Was
Yes.
the one he sent you a Starfield?
Yes.
Yes, because the Antilia.
There it is right there. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got both of them now.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. So I've actually put some photos on the forum from both of them. Still
very
getting
good.
used to using them, but yeah, no, it's pretty beefy.
Yeah, I like it. And I especially like the finder. This makes a great finder scope for your whole setup. When you have one of these in the back, if this is on one of your telescopes and everything's aligned, you can use this as your finder scope for the sun. And why people make solar wedges black, I still don't know. That's the only
one's white, isn't it?
Yeah, the bottom one is white. And there was one out for a while that was gold made. I think that maniac Marcus Ludes was putting it out for a while. But yeah, the only it works really good. And I guess Brian's already stated all that in his reviews. But for $459 Canadian, I don't know how much that is US. It's probably about $320, $330, something like that. And anyway, this guy is Steve is doing a little sponsorship with the forum now too. So if you're in Canada and you're ordering astronomy stuff, it would be great to patronize the people that sponsor us. And that's about it. And that's Ontario Telescope and Accessories. And I guess they're in Ontario. What do you think, Brian?
They are in Ontario. They're pretty much a mail order outfit.
Yeah.
They don't have a storefront, but I've done some business with them. Pretty good.
Yeah, and I've known him for a long time from the astronomy shows. He's always there. He was with some other companies before, and then he started his own company. Whatever happened to that guy that ran that big Canadian astronomy show? Then he also had that Celestron mount upgrade service. What was that guy's name?
Oh, I lost track of who ran what.
Okay.
There was a temporary show that ran for a couple of years. I don't even know who was behind it.
I forgot the guy's name, but he never paid my expenses for the time I went up and lectured for him. And I didn't care. I don't ever ask him to pay anything anyway. But he's volunteered to pay him, and then he never did. So it's like $2,000.
Was that the show in Hamilton?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I forget the guy's name, but I had a good time there, and I met a lot of good people there, including Ray Lalonde, who some of you know from the forum. Ray Lalonde is the sweetest guy you'll ever meet in your life, and he came to the show because his wife had been ill for about 10 years with a really debilitating disease, and he came up and took me aside and had tears in his eyes. And this guy's about 75. He looks like a little teddy bear. And he said that the only thing that kept him going was he saw a picture I took of the sun. This was 15 years ago, and said that he decided to get into that hobby because he could do it outside the window where his wife was in her deathbed. And he had to take care of his wife for like a decade. And he came up and thanked me for saving his life during all that. And boy, you know, how do you respond to something like that, man? But anyway, I met him at that show also. So Claire and Peter, man, what do you got going on in Australia? Tell us all about it. I'll stop talking now.
Jeez. What do you want to know? I mean, it's a big question.
Well, like what kind of equipment are you using? How are you into solar astronomy? Is this something you've been doing for a while?
No.
Relative newcomers to solar astronomy,
Yeah.
sort of in
12 months, a bit
probably.
more.
Yeah.
We-
And
We only started really with astronomy about 4 years ago, when we retired. And I mean, obviously had a lot of interest over lifetime, but just really didn't have the time to do it. So yeah, relative recent thing.
and pretty modest equipment, I think, is what you
Yeah.
what you'd say. Yeah.
They're making very good use of it.
And you're doing this together. That's great. We don't get we don't have a lot of couples that do it together. My wife, well, let's not talk about my wife, but she is not involved in solar astronomy. She sees the entire nonprofit as me throwing away money that could be used for our villa on the French Riviera. So, but she puts up with it.
It sounds like my wife, Stephen.
Right. So good for you. And Alexander, did you already mention this? I was on the other computer sharing on Facebook our meeting, but did you already mention about your friend that couldn't make it this time for the?
Oh, what, Laura?
Yeah.
Fortunately, she's had some work commitments, so she's had to travel by train this evening, to get to an early work commitment on the Monday, so she's unable to give us the short presentation, but she's hoping to give it in January instead, which would be very interesting to find out about that Pro-Am project. So I think she's quite involved with it, and she knows a lot about it. So
Peter, how about you? Are you currently doing solar astronomy in Australia?
Yeah, I am, Stephen. I probably very much like Claire and Peter. I came to it fairly late in my astronomy career. So I'm probably a good few thousand, well over 1,000 k's north of Claire and Peter. So we're in a state called Queensland, which at the moment
Very
is,
familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I been involved in astronomy for a long time. And I was just mentioning before, if you see Pranvera, please say hello to Pranvera for me. I haven't seen Pranvera for a year or two now.
She's traveling with her father, and she was here at my
Yep.
home last month, passing through. She travels constantly. Pranvera is one of
know.
our sponsored groups in Kosovo, for those that don't know. And she was able to go from a tiny village in Kosovo with nothing to now she is a PhD student in astrogeology, planetary geology at University of California. All from participating in our program and doing outreach and just becoming popular. So so then Fran Vera's friends in the Vatican then.
No, I got to meet Pranvera a couple of years ago when she came to Australia. She was interested in our supernova search program,
right.
and she spent some time here. We took her out to our observatories out west of here, and yeah, we've had a couple of fun times. You may have seen a picture of me dressed as a Star Trooper on one of her birthdays many years
I
ago.
will have to look that up real quick.
Yeah,
Curious
embarrass her.
though, Peter, did you happen to know that I arranged that trip, and that 2 years before that I was there for several weeks?
No, I didn't know that.
Look
no.
at that. See, I'm not a
How about
pretty
that?
I'm not a pretty Eastern European scientist. I'm just an old man from Atlanta. No one's ever heard of it. Now, the Charlie Bates Solar Astronomy Project has a vibrant chapter in the Burdekin all over.
Yeah,
out of
that I
Air.
knew. Yeah.
Home Hill. So yeah, Pranvera is actually there twice before, and she stayed with a guy who's no longer affiliated with our program that we won't mention. But
Yes.
yeah, and if you see him, tell him he owes me $40,000. But anyway,
I've never met him, but I know the guy he talks to.
yeah. So that's great, man. And do you live in the vicinity of Air or Home Hill? Or
No,
you're in
I live
Townsville?
in just no, I live on the what's called the Gold Coast. So if you're
Yeah,
familiar
yeah.
with the Gold Coast, which is just
Bowen
south of
Beach
Brisbane.
area.
Well, we've got Surfers Paradise Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I'm probably in one of the worst places to do astronomy as far as setting up a telescope goes, because we're in an apartment building, so we've got a tiled deck on the
Right.
top of our unit, and so as far as weather goes, or heat goes, I'm surrounded by concrete. But then again, I've also got a nice ocean outlook just across from me, so somewhat
Sounds like a tough
laminate
life.
flow of air, and so it's a balance of life and doing some astronomy. And really, it's just the solar astronomy has really filled a gap for me for where I live, because it's just impossible to have a serious nighttime telescope here. It's quite a bright place, lots of lighting around the Gold Coast. So solar astronomy's filled a big gap for me.
Great, and we're glad to have you. And when I was there the first time, I toured around several colleges in the area and set up the solar telescopes with our friend. And the skies were so clear and the UV was so bright that I had to order a special filter for my calcium K telescope, because the UV was so much brighter through the atmosphere over Australia. And when you talk about stacking images in H alpha and white light and calcium, this is no joke, and you won't believe me, but a single image from the PGR camera was better than any stacked image I've ever taken anywhere in the US. So a single frame was so good, I didn't even have to stack the images. I just took one frame and processed it and put it online. And people didn't believe me until they saw it. And some of the astronomers down there joined me for doing that. And, we normally take 600, 1,000 frames here and stack the best 10% or whatever, even with a good camera, and still got noisier images than a single frame in Australia. It was unbelievable. And I had those UV beads that you hold in your hand, that turn purple when you walk outside. And Brian Stevens was with me for a couple of weeks. He's the guy that builds all the telescopes for Lunt. And we opened I had a video on Facebook, nobody believed it. But before I could get my hand open, they were dark purple. They would go from white to dark purple. I couldn't even get my hand extended in time. That's how bright the UV was there. So when you talk about a UV index in Atlanta, everybody's panicking if the UV index is 7 or 8 in Atlanta, and that's nighttime in Australia. I mean, it would get in the 18, 19. It's just unbelievable, man.
There is an Australian guy that's posted a couple of times on Solarchat who's in Castlemaine, which is about an hour and a half
from where we are,
from us, and all his images are single frame DLSR images.
Totally believe it. Yeah.
Oh, is that John Wilkinson?
It is. Yeah.
Single frame, single shots.
It's hard to believe, and that's for the rest of us. That's just it sounds like you're making it up. But I don't know what quality of the sky produces that, but that's the way it was there. There was no stacking involved in anything. So,
his images are really good.
They are.
with a DSLR, and that is really hard to do. And
Yes, yes,
his images are just as good as all of ours.
right.
You know, with stacking, and it's like, oh my goodness.
And I will never forget, as long as I live, looking through a 20-inch Dobsonian at various nighttime sites in the Australian sky. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen anywhere. So the
Yeah,
Omega
come on all down. You're all welcome.
Yeah, the Omega Centauri Nebula it's undoubtedly the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. So top that.
Well, the invite's there. If you ever come to Australia, we'll take you out to our dark sky site west of here, which is exceedingly dark.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see like the Magellanic Clouds.
You just look out the window when you're driving and they're just right there, you know, as big as the moon.
You can't miss them.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
looks like
Yeah, I can't quite believe that, you know, that
it's true. It's like a dirty cotton ball in the sky, a little brownish cotton ball.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of suburbia and in Melbourne, and on a good night you can still pick them out. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem. Yeah, it just does. And I always think it's funny as well, like to see Orion upside down and the moon upside down. I think that would be something amazing to see.
Yep. Very good. Well, who else wants to share anything this week? Sean?
Send us some clear skies. I'm tired of rain and cloud. Although it's good for the
nature preserve.
Yeah, the nature preserve, but I'm tired of it. I do have my pinhole cans from on the way that I'm going to put up on the 21st. So looking forward to that.
Right, that's the time to do it. And Sean lives 10 or 12 miles away from me here in Atlanta, so we've been getting rain for about a week now, so it's been depressing. But for those that don't know, we also adopted a nature preserve locally through the nonprofit, and we do maintenance and boardwalks and bird feed and stuff like that for this nature preserve. And so it's been dry as a bone for several months, and now it's finally filling back up with water. So the animals are.
You get a shot of what was a hooded merganser?
Yeah, I did, and you know, nothing says solar astronomy like a hooded merganser photo. It'll be a minute for me to pull it up. Yeah, we were kind of expecting this presentation from this other friend, so I didn't have any content for this month. So it's just free form discussion. And I'm going to leave it with you guys again. I have to go adjust the computer over there.
While you're doing that, and since I mentioned the solar cans, I'll ask Nick, what kind of cool stuff are you going to do with your can this year? Or
so I'm in the spotlight suddenly. I'm looking forward to retrieving the solar can that I've put up, which is obviously, you know, a couple of weeks now, isn't it? And I've placed it along the side of a rail track between where we live and York. And it's halfway between London and Edinburgh. So there's a really, well, it's quite famous in Britain, sign. So I'm hoping to have caught the sign, and obviously the wires that go above the train, as well as the solar graph as well. So, you know, fingers crossed that one works out. And I've got another one near a fishing lake, because I've been trying to catch reflections off water, but I'm thinking that the water has to be much larger, and it's probably got to be stiller than I'd ever be able to find anywhere in Yorkshire. So that's where I'm at. And like yourself, going to try for an analemma starting in December.
cool. I'm looking forward to seeing yours. You going to do the analemma with a puck or with one of the cans, or have you built something?
Yeah, I've got a tin, a mint tin that I've made that I cut a pinhole out of a solar can, because I tried making the pinhole before now, and I either made the pinhole too big so that the image was blurred, or too small so there wasn't enough light getting through, and you could only just see a narrow image of a tree that I tried to catch. But in the meantime, I bought two pucks, both intended as presents, but I've just found out that one of the intended pucks, they've already got one. So I'm going to keep that one. And with the Black Friday deal, got a free solar can. So I'm gonna try for the Analemma through 3 ways: through the one I've made, through a puck, and through a solar can as well. So, I think I'm going to have them all in the same position. I partly wondered about experimenting, trying them in different places, but it's going to be impractical to get between the 3 of them and take the cover off and put it back on. So I was thinking about mounting the homemade one, the puck and the can, within some polystyrene, and covering it with a black opaque thing to then just lift the opaque thing off for the minute exposure and then pop it back on. So 2 to retrieve and 3 in the pipeline. It's quite exciting.
Cool.
If you're us.
So is a
Yeah.
minute long enough to get?
Well, I had a word with Heather I don't know you pronounce her surname, Heather Palachek, an artist that I follow on Instagram, and she felt that a minute was long enough.
Right.
Yeah, because it's going to be a long time before I find out that that's not long enough, isn't it? Do you think it should be longer then?
Yeah, because you might try for a whole year and then find that.
Yeah. I don't want that.
I think that probably before attempting it, I would, do a few exposures, test one, and see what the track comes out like. So, before investing a whole year on it. Going, oh, it's not long enough.
Yeah, well, I kind of just trusted her because she does. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking over you. I kind of just trusted her because she does it for a living. So I'll get back to her and just say, "Are you sure?" And if she says it with some comfort, then I will. But yeah, you're right. I can try the homemade one for a couple of exposures if the sun ever shines between now and the big day. Yeah.
I guess if she's done it before, then she knows. So she's.
Yeah.
But that just make me a bit nervous.
Yeah. It's, got to fly by the seat of your pants, haven't you? Sam Combe will know as well. I have a feeling he said a minute when I've asked him. So, but I will double check that. You're right, because it needs to be right, doesn't it? Going to that amount of effort.
And are you going to do it every week?
Try. Yeah, I'm going to try every
minute.
Sunday because I work 6 days and have a Sunday off, and we're generally about on a Sunday. So, yeah. Every week, Sunday at 12, 1 o'clock, thereabouts.
Or are you going to do a Saturday if it's sunny on a Saturday?
Yeah, well, yeah, I wouldn't be so. Yeah, it's about catching the sun rather than it being specific to the Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Because when I did an Analemma photography, it took me 5 years to do it.
Wow.
I was trying to get it, obviously I could only do it on a weekend. And so to be able to get sort of like either the sun on a Saturday or a Sunday at exactly 11 o'clock, to the second on each one, that is quite impossible in the UK. So I ended up with like gaps. And so I would wait till the next year to fill that gap in. And if it didn't occur, then I had to wait for the next year and the next year. And it took me 5 years to actually get it finally sort of like complete-ish. So I'm just warning you. And then it means
that's persistent.
Holiday. Because if you go on holiday at the same time, every year, you've always got a gap.
Yeah.
So, and then you then want to go out for the day and you can't because you want to do your 11 o'clock. I'm just warning you. It's like really.
So you're saying this Analemma is like an anchor.
Yes, it's like all consuming.
Just make a clockwork one or something.
I've seen some of those.
Yeah,
Maybe.
that would be a good idea. A robotic one. So even if at work, you could have an app and say uncover for 1 minute.
Yeah. That could be the way.
Mm.
I think we're generally start a holiday on a Saturday and come back on a Sunday. So it's the weather. It's the weather that's going to let the side down if there's a problem, I think.
Question for you, Nick, if you don't mind. With your can, do you keep it perfectly upright or do you have it tilted slightly to make sure you get the top of the arc as well?
Yeah, good question. The first solar can, the first 3 solar cans I had the pinhole in the middle. So I did the first one and missed the top of the summer solar graph. But the next one that I got had the pinhole, so it was about 2/3 of the way up. And if you've got that one, it can just go up vertically. So I
still
did
have a-
that, and it did catch the top of the solar graph. So it
Oh, very
depends
good.
where the hole is on the can.
I still have
But
a batch of
I asked my dad to make me a contraption that enabled me to twist a solar can. So it was sort of on a right angle bracket with a piece of metal joining the two, and this bit at the bottom was flexible, so I could bend it so that the angle changed. And as well as that, I was able to spin the can. So I've tried all manner of things with still a lot of ideas to try. But yeah, to answer your question, when the hole is in the center of the can, I angled it about 30 degrees. Yeah, and it worked well.
I didn't realize that they had changed the position of the hole. I still have a batch of the old style can. So, and then the second one I have is a question about the puck. I get the impression that the field of view is a lot smaller. Have you processed any images out of that to see what the field of view effect is like? Are you just getting part of the trail, or are you getting the full field of view showing sunrise to sunset?
Well, with the puck, I've only tried it for, usually I've done a day, because my ideas, I did one for a week when we went on holiday to Mull, but because it was in the first week of October, it was just a fairly lowish flat line. And other puck experiments I've done have been for a day, because it's in my mind to catch the sun on a day and give that as a gift to somebody. So, for example, a special birthday or a christening or a wedding or something like that, to catch the sun, the solar graph for the day, and give that as a gift. So that's what I've been practicing with the puck. The image that I took when we were in Mull, we stayed in a really beautiful tiny crofter's cottage, and what I found was that the puck needed to be much nearer to the object that you're trying to capture, because it looks smaller. And I've not got enough knowledge in photographic focal length and all that ability to be able to describe it, but just the solar can be a little bit further away and the puck needs to be a bit nearer. But the puck is coming up with a really incredibly clear photographic image. It's a really impressive one, and of course it's flat, so you don't get any distortion at all. But with the can, because it's curved, you sort of get a distorted image, and the curve, the angle of the curve changes as well. So when you're me, it's interesting to do it both ways to get those special effects. Yeah.
And how do you process your image? So you take out your can, say, particularly with the puck, say, or even with the can, you take out your image. Do you flatten it down and put it on a like a photocopier kind of scanner, or how do you?
Yeah, we've got a scanner, so I just put it. What I do is I always test the scanner first, because the first couple of times I did it, I had a low-level panic that once the light from the scanner exposed near the photographic paper, that it would change it, and it does, but only a little bit. So when I had a problem with the scanner one time, I took a scan of it probably about 8 or 9 times, and there was a clear difference in the 9th time I had the light flash on the paper than the first time. So the first time, if you can get it, I think they're better colours. I might just be making that up. It just seems that they're better colours. But yeah, I put it on the scanner, and then I load it into any software and invert it, and then just tweak the curves. But I had a go at embossing one, and there was quite a bit of excitement in the groups of people I mix with about the style of the embossing, because it looked like it was 3D, almost as if it was printed on textured wallpaper. So I've done that a couple of times, but so I'm looking for a new way of processing them, in addition to what I've done. But I was excited this month. Got a captive audience. When I tell my friends this, they just sort of glaze over. When I talk about the sun at all, that would be a good question. Yeah,
we want to know.
Good question for the Solar Chat forum would be, how do you maintain people's interest when you're talking about the sun and the weather? Because all my friends are just like, Anyway, well, I've got people who are interested.
You have to give
I
away
felt,
things.
I was really, really proud that one of my solar graphs was chosen to go in the manual for Solar Can this month. So the free Solar Can that I got, my own pictures in the manual. So that was great. And I've been telling my friends, and they're like, yeah, that's really lovely. No idea what I'm talking about, but you know.
Yeah, I
so
found
yeah,
out
that was really good. I was proud of that.
While
Well
teaching
done.
this course, I usually yearly I do a group with young people to make the cameras, and we'll make about 20 or 30 of them. And I've done it for several years. And it's you were mentioning about the position of the hole. It's really, you know, intuitively you want to put the hole in the center of the can because you think that's going to be the best thing. But you got to remember the image is flipped upside down. And when the sun reaches its peak, if it's in the center of the can, it cuts off most of the peak. So really the higher up the can it is, the better. Even 3/4 of the way up is great because the stuff that's right out there horizontal in your foreground is going to be straight through the hole. So you can't put it high enough to block the foreground, but you get the peak of the sun upside down if your hole is very high on the camera. And also if you use a fatter can, like Foster's Lager for you Australians, if you use a big fat Foster's can for your paper, you get a much wider field of view as well. And I'll tell the same story I always tell about that is here in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, they did a project for students about 7 years ago where they all made these cameras and they taped them up to a bridge over the interstate in the downtown Atlanta, which is where I live, and I can see the bridge. And someone reported it as a terrorist bomb because it was taped with duct tape, and they shut down the entire interstate for like 6 hours while they had these bomb crews and dogs and shit go up and take these poor kids' solar camera off the bridge and destroy it. So it's a good idea to market, you know, this is not a bomb or something, something like that. But
I think that attracts more attention.
Maybe. But, you know, some guy was just sitting on the bridge in traffic and looked over and saw a duct tape can and decided to call the bomb squad. Just what we said earlier, that is a hooded merganser.
Ooh, wow.
If anyone cares, eating a crawdad, we call them. And that's what Sean was talking about a minute ago. Yeah, and that's a little duck that we have here. I don't know if they have those anywhere else in the world.
Oh, yeah. Very nice capture, Stephen.
And then
Yeah, we've got them up here.
they slay the crawdads all winter long. They're only down here in our winter time or the Australian summertime. So just to tie up that loose end. And I was going to point out to our Australian guests that we use NASA SDO, which stands for Solar Dynamics Observatory. When you're getting into astronomy, solar astronomy, you'll notice that a lot of people post their first solar photos and they won't be aligned properly. They'll be just any way that they feel like looks good. And we you know, I don't care what way you do it as long as you're enjoying doing it. But if you want to have your solar images properly aligned when you're taking a picture, you can rotate the camera in the eyepiece and it'll rotate the image, and you try to get it north-south by just using one of these images. Oh, I should probably share that so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah. Sorry about that. The NASA SDO site. And you can click on any of these images and it'll give you a position of the sunspots, like this image here. Let's see. This one, it's a lot easier to see when you click it and get the full size view. I'll go ahead and share that now. And this is stuff that we all already know, but I'm trying to just give some tips for the first timers. And this lets you compare what you're seeing in your eyepiece to what NASA SDO is seeing, which is perfectly aligned north-south. So you can rotate your camera to get the correct alignment before you share. Okay, and that was my 2 bits of info there.
It's much easier to drift the image. I do it all the time.
Yeah, which way does it drift? Yeah.
And then we can do animations every day for a week, for instance. Well, it's raining here a lot also. I don't have sunshine every time as I did before. But if you drift the image, pushing buttons in your mount, if you have a fixed mount, of course, it's easier.
Right. Now, does it drift east-west or does it depend on your latitude?
I always put north up. For the Australians, it's south up, maybe. But I always put north up, so it's easier.
I mean, when you're watching the sun on a stable mount, which direction does it drift, and does that change with your latitude?
No, it drifts. I know exactly the position that I should put the camera to have north up, and then I drift the image to align it, and I do it every time when I change filters and all this. So you have almost everything will be aligned after a while.
Very good.
And I have a small piece of metal. It's very easy to align the solar wedge with this piece of metal. So you look through, and that's it. It's very easy.
They just have to turn their telescopes upside down. It'll be correct then.
Yeah, I think we've beat that horse to death already. So
I just learned what a puck is, because I didn't know what this. It's a round thing for the solar cam. It's the solar cam. I think puck. It's the puck. Yes, it's very new to me.
It's a term from hockey. Yeah, it's a hockey term.
That's with film in it.
Yeah,
but they has the pinhole, and you use it only once. So once for a whole day, for instance. And the solar cam, it's the whole year, so it's different. So
the puck.
Puck.
Oh yeah, I wanted to say as well, like when you actually take your piece of photographic film out of the can, what I found the last time, I had a little bit of like moisture in the bottom of my can. Obviously it was raining an awful lot that year, obviously, so my piece of paper was my photographic paper was a little bit wet, and what I did straight away was obviously I'd practiced on the scanner. I usually like cut a piece of sort of like out of a TV magazine, a coloured sheet exactly the same size as the photographic paper, and practice scanning that first so that that all your scan settings are correct. I just whopped it out of the can, just stuck it straight onto the scanner, and I had all of these horrible sort of like marks, and when I sort of like peeled it off the scanner thing, it was like all half stuck to it. So my sort of like caution is take it out of the can, and what I do now is I just leave it in a dark cupboard like for half an hour just to dry before sticking it onto the scanner, and then after I'd let it dry for like half an hour and put it on the scanner, I didn't have these horrible like sticky marks. So it was just sort of like a word of, it's only if you live in a very wet environment, I think.
But you have to develop the photographic paper, of course.
No, you don't. You just take it out and you just scan it.
You're scanning the negative, and then you process it into a developed photo.
Yeah, you sort of like in Photoshop just do it as a negative, and then it becomes.
And did you still have a nice artistic effect from the water damage across your image?
It just looked messy. I didn't like it.
Mine are always watery too. I try to deal with it.
So this solar cam can be only bought in the UK or no?
I don't know. You can just
make your own.
I can make, but and the photographic paper, it's a normal photographic paper.
It's Ilford, ILFORD, Ilford monochrome, and on the solar can site that he talks about the best paper to use and all that too. And I got it off the internet and I just ordered it online. But
it's not easy to get photographic paper now. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't know about Portugal. In the US, it was pretty easy. We just got it on Amazon as much as you wanted, but I don't know what it would be like in Lisbon.
And what do you use as a container, Stephen, then, if you're using your own
I use
paper?
Drink cans, sodas or beers. I don't drink, so it's usually like a Coke can or some kind. Any can works. You can use, I also use some flour. In the US, sometimes flour comes in cans, or cornmeal. Just any can from the grocery store. It's about the shape, and the wider the can, the more field of view you're going to have. And the more narrow the can, the smaller field of view horizontally you're going to have. So it doesn't matter what it is. As long as it's watertight, that's all that matters.
Yeah. But obviously you have to cut the can on. Yeah. So then you're just duct taping it up again, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. That's the easiest thing for the children, because I'm usually taking 60 of them to these little workshops, and I can't buy 60 of the pre-made ones. I mean, I could, but what good would that be? Because they'd already be made. So the fun we're having is making the cans ourselves.
It's a journey. Yeah.
Right. Very
Right.
simple. Takes about 3 minutes to make one, and you're sure to cut your hands at least once when you're making the can. So wear some gloves.
There are some YouTube videos explaining.
Yes,
all that?
plenty.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll check.
including me.
Okay.
The stock solar can, if you order them, what size piece of photographic paper is inside them?
Yeah, I don't know.
I would
5x7.
have to
Am
go
I
and
trying-
look in the book. The book does say.
Undoubtedly be a
Okay.
5x7 sheet because they're using regular size cola soft drink cans.
That does ring a bell.
You
Actually.
couldn't put anything bigger in there.
No.
I'd like to get a 50-gallon drum and have like a 4-foot piece of paper in there. You know, I think it'd be fantastic. But really,
Let me
the
measure this
curvature.
real quick. This came out of one of the cans.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. Yeah.
That was a 5x7, I believe.
I
Yeah.
think that's right.
Yeah.
Show it again. Show it again. Can you see it again?
Yeah. It's about half an A4, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
About A5.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the whole year that one or no? Or 6 months?
That was 6 months.
6 months. Okay.
Yeah, so that's US 5x7. So in centimeters, 17 and a half.
By 10.
Yeah, 17 and a half by 12 and a half.
By what?
17 and a half by 12 and a half
Ah,
centimeters. I don't know how to divide that into the A4 magic square.
yeah, because you're American. Neither do
Right,
I.
exactly. But yeah, these have all been scanned. So I've got a whole stack of them here that I've taken over the years, and they've all been scanned. So they don't immediately, they do exactly, they have been darkened up since I've scanned them, but they don't immediately wash out. That was my big fear. And I always run, like Alexandra was saying, I get some sort of picture that looks really good and I scan that and go, all right, I got all the DPI settings the way I want. And then I slap this down, but I like the set it aside somewhere to make sure it's dry. I never thought about that.
Mm. Yeah, they don't get overexposed too fast. It'd be an hour before it would be overexposed because it's a very, very slow paper. Very
And
slow.
if you don't fix the paper, because I'm getting old now, and I used to develop photographic using photographic paper. So you have to use a developer, and then you have to use a fixer. You don't have to do anything like that.
No,
It's only
you,
the paper.
you could, if you wanted to, you could do that and probably have a better image. But
Maybe.
You take the negative right out of the can and scan it, and then go to Photoshop and just invert the colors, and there you go.
Right.
You know, most of all the paper being used is black and white, so you're getting a monochrome image, but the resulting negative is usually pink. The bright is represented by shades of pink.
Mhm.
And then when you invert that and scan it, you know, it turns out blue. But
Yeah, I was wondering where the color was coming from.
yeah, pink is the inverse of blue. So at least I think.
There's colour paper in the solar cans, and I
Oh, there is.
bought some colour photographic paper to put in the tins, so you can do it obviously in monochrome, or there's colour paper as well. So the colours are already there. So if you compare the solar can solar graph with the Ilford, you make it yourself. They are different. They come up in different colours. And solar can has got a 3-pack of it's one's called Nebula, one's called something else, and one's sort of blue, one's sort of green, one's sort of orange. So you can experiment with the colours as well. I've got a puck here if you that's the solar can puck.
And because I'm just
So
looking
it's
at
just
the
a little
website
disc,
here.
and it's as Stephen was saying, I think it's called a puck because it looks like an ice hockey puck.
Right,
And it's got a
big,
twist.
big. Yeah.
So you
And
put the photographic paper in there and then twist it together again.
And
And it's got a little rubber band that you put around the edge to stop the rain from getting in.
And you have to do it
And
in
then
the
you
dark.
can use it again.
You have to do it in the dark, of course, or no?
Not really. I mean,
Yeah, comes with packets.
Don't do it in the sunshine.
right. I mean, you can do it in a normally lit room, man. It ain't gonna hurt it.
Because in the old photographic days, we had a red lamp to do all
Right.
that.
Right.
long time ago.
Yeah. Well, all the
Yeah,
instructions
I-
warn you not to put it out in the light or any like that, but I've just used it in regular normal lighting in my room and just never had an effect on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's if it's in direct sunlight, the photographic paper goes suddenly very beige, then brown. Really, well, not suddenly, quite quickly, within 10 minutes to an hour.
Right.
If it's just in ordinary light within a room, it just goes a little bit brown. You know, like a tea-stained piece of paper.
That's one of the things Stephen did the last class I went to that he did is set one out in the sun with the can sitting on top of it for a couple minutes and then
Yeah.
hold it up to show the difference.
Yeah, it'll show the outline of the can or the glove or whatever. So that's what the kids were interested in. You know, you were saying, what do you do to keep them interested? Well, you got to give away stuff the whole time. So you got to give them paper glasses. You got to give them a sticker, a magnet, whatever. But people's eyes, you talk about solar astronomy, their eyes glazing over. You ought to give a lecture on solar spectroscopy and see the eyes glaze over.
And Nick, that puck, I'm looking at it online. It's down as £40, but it comes with 9 pieces of paper. Is that correct? So it's not like a solar can, which is a single use only. The puck is
No, you can get the one. Yeah, you can get the one for £40 has got about, is it 9 exposures, did you say? But it's released this, which is a no frills version of the puck, and this is £20.
Okay.
So
I don't think that one comes with paper though. I think I looked at that one. I didn't think it came with paper.
It's round.
yeah, it's got some exposures in it. Yeah, it's got 9. There's 9
nice.
in that one. Yeah.
Well, the puck. Oh, yeah.
But what?
No files. Will I share my screen
So
here?
instead of having it's got a little tremlet, a little stand that it can sit on. Instead of it coming with the plastic one, it's got this cardboard one. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Okay.
It does look like an F.
And it comes with 9. So it's just cut down on packaging, really. It's just cardboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems to be the same product.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because the one I was looking at a minute ago was
It's 39. Yeah, I checked.
£39. It's quite expensive, I thought, but you know.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's fun to do, and there's plenty of time to go make one. There's 10 days. You know, you can start it any day of the year as long as you do it 6 months. But people like to start them on the solstice, which is 10 days.
Yeah.
And that's what I was wondering.
You know, a germaline medicine tin, that would be a good make your own device if you wanted a little circular one. I quite like the fact that it's circular.
Yeah.
And of course, it's
the other thing that I've done.
Yeah. It's a flat back on it, so it's very easy to mount to something.
Right.
As well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the other thing I tried was I got a biscuit tin that was about 7 inches square, and I put 9 pinholes in it. So it's a 9-hole pinhole exposure, and that's exciting. If you me. So there's a range of different things. Or some of the solar cans, he did a phase where he had a solar can that had 2 pinholes in. So I just took it to the extreme and did 9 just to see what happened. And of course you get 9
like
little pictures.
Yeah, and just put one piece of paper underneath it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Good
I'm
idea,
an avid baker, so I have all that stuff.
You won't be cooking again though once you have 9 holes in it.
That's a great idea. I never thought of that. You'd have to get a really precise device to put tiny little holes in it though, wouldn't you?
Well, I got my friend to drill big holes in, and then this is how I realized that when I made my own pinholes, I was doing it inaccurately, because that was when the pinhole was too big, it wasn't focused, and when it was too small, it wasn't letting enough light in. It was the 9-hole pinhole thing that made me realize that. So I'll be saving solar can pinholes again to then just use electrical tape to pin it to the tin.
Really?
So drill a hole that's too big and then pin a pinhole to it. But Stephen, how do you make your pinholes so that they're accurate?
I purchase the smallest needle I can get, and then these are 12-year-olds, so I tape a little softy thing on top of the needle so they can use it safely, and we just poke the hole in it, and it sometimes bends the can, and you have to bend it back out a little bit. But it's
straight in the side of the can.
Yes, a straight needle right into the side of the can. Yeah, with a very, very small sewing needle. but I would not work through my muffin tin. I'd have to use something a little stronger because it would go through their
22.
thumb. It would just go backwards through the thumb. I don't know that I have a drill bit that small.
Yeah, the drill bit, I think it's 1 millimeter, the smallest.
Oh, these pinholes are a tenth of that.
Okay.
And if you don't get it, if you get the pinhole, if it's not close to being round, it also looks terrible. So if you put a dash in there mistakenly, it looks terrible. And if the pinhole is more than 1/3 of a millimeter, it doesn't work. It's out of focus.
You can
So-
reasonably easily get 0.2 mil drills.
Yeah.
Really, I wonder what size the hole is on the solar can if they say that on the website.
Take it,
It's in
take it to a university and have them put a hole in it with a laser.
Yeah, I'm going to go to a university with my muffin tin and ask them to drill 9 holes in it.
Well, you could get the silicon version, can't you, of that, or the rope, whatever
Yeah.
rubber version?
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah,
easier.
yeah.
Once it wouldn't flex too much with the.
Yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Mm.
You know, necessity is the mother of invention, my friends.
This is where, Nick, you need to get your friends involved now. You know, you can start talking about baking and cooking, and then you can gradually transition into solar astronomy. Yeah.
And you could also
got it,
reuse.
that's the way.
Yeah, you could reuse the muffin tin if it's only 0.1 millimeters because it ain't going to leak out of there.
Well, you can always put the you get the paper thingos that you can stick in the muffin tin that you can, so that would stop it from leaking out the bottom. So you'd be right. Just put these in.
Well, if you had a 0.1 hole in the muffin tin, butter
Shouldn't be a problem.
molecule is thicker than that, probably. I don't know.
Low calorie version.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to figure that one out because that's a great idea. I never thought of that because they do sell the paper in 8.5 by 11, which is the same size as the bottom of this tin. So you could have 9 cameras in the same spot, you know, and surely one of them is going to come out without being wet and messed up. Because I had about a 30% success rate with my cans. With the average student, you know, we had about a 30% success rate for some reason or another.
So the puck you use for a day, and you don't have to open and close the exposure. The can, you've got to go and actually have a shutter over it.
No, you'd leave it open for 6 months.
You just leave
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the reason for having to do something each time, same time each week?
It's the analemma.
Yeah.
Which is what?
An analemma is a different type of long-term image of the sun where you take a shot at the same time every day and the sun makes a figure 8 in the sky.
Okay.
Yeah, that's called an analemma, and that's a
Right.
little more complicated. And you have to do that at one time at the same time each day.
Right. So
And
so the photographic paper you're using, which is probably answers Pedro's question, is incredibly slow paper.
Yes, very, very, very slow. And this entire process is called the camera obscura. OBSCURA. If you look that up online, camera obscuras are used in all kind of different situations to take very, very slow developing exposures of things. You can make them out of anything. You can make it out of a hunk of cardboard in a bright room if you want to. You know, this is just a camera obscura version of a solar camera. So it turned into an interesting discussion today, didn't it?
It's good fun.
All right, well,
It's fun.
we are at our 1 hour and 5 minute mark, and I'm really glad we got some new members, and of course I love all our steady members, and thank you everybody so much for being on our forum, on our Solar Chat forum, because I think it's the best forum out there. And I did have to throw some posts off last month for some people starting to argue, so don't argue on my forum. I don't care what your problem is. If you start arguing, I'm booting you out. We all love each other and we get along great.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way. I don't care what the problem is. You know, I don't want to hear it. Just get out. So, and I refer you over to Cloudy Nights if you want to argue, because they got a great argument forum over there. It's wonderful. It's like, it's worse than Facebook. Okay.
So we can't start arguing about 1 millimeter or 2 millimeter holes. You're going to.
You can debate it vigorously. Let me put it that way. You can debate it vigorously, but you know, no personal attacks, no vendor arguments, no, you know, all that crap. You guys know all that already. But thank you so much, Claire and Peter and Peter, for both coming on, and we hope you come back again and bring some information for us. So we are signing out for this week, and thanks everybody for attending.
Thank you.
Bye.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Take care.